All right.
What's going on, people?
What's up, guys? Welcome back to our Opinion City Patreon, and this is episode two.
Exclusive
Yes, this is our Patreon exclusive
number
episode
two.
two of Wrestling with Life, and we
Mm-hmm.
got a super cool episode planned for
Oh yeah.
you this time. We've got a great guest, so
Mm-hmm.
let's not waste any time.
No,
Let's
sir.
bring him on out. This is Virgil from the
Bring him in.
Mahoning Drive-In Theater.
Booyah!
Yes.
Yeah.
What's
Heck
going
yeah.
on,
I'm a
man?
walking billboard. What's up?
Yeah.
I'm so glad we could make this work, and I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Super excited to have you on. Super excited to have you on.
Yeah, this is
I
really
love,
cool.
I love the platform of Patreon. And I
Yeah,
love
no, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. We are just dabbling into it now and exploring the options.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, everything is a kind of niche collective that is built up.
Right.
So Patreon is a platform that really plays into that.
Yeah.
Mahoning was totally fan born, so the idea of having fan exclusive content is just a no brainer.
Yeah.
And the wrestling world, same thing. It's so kind of private and communal. You know what I mean? At the same time,
Right.
It's makes sense to feed the audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning here. So for all of our fans who may not know who you are and exactly what the Mahoning Drive-In is, why don't you give us the little the dust jacket version?
There you go.
Yeah, for those who don't know what the Mahoning's all about, we are the only 100% 35 millimeter retro classic drive-in in the entire country, and
Awesome.
we're right in the Lehigh Valley, right on the cusp of the valley there, in Lehighton, Pennsylvania, right below Jim Thorpe, right above Allentown. And what we do 6 months out of the year is lean into fandom like no other drive-in has really ever done. We say that our kind of brand is we're pushing the culture forward while also rooting it in its past.
That's very cool.
We run everything classic, but we put a new spin on everything as well. So when you come to your favorite movie, let's say, Indiana Jones,
Yeah.
it's like being immersed in the Indiana Jones world.
Yeah.
Really, the fandom brings a lot of that as well as the team.
Right.
But the legend of the Mahoning has grown immensely since we've gone retro in 2014, about 10 years ago. So,
Wow.
yeah. And
How long has the Mahoning Drive Theater been around for? Has it been 10 years or has it been way longer than that?
Yeah, way longer. So we're coming up on our diamond anniversary. So 75th season,
Woo.
75th summer this year.
Wow.
Opened in 1949. Has been rocking ever since. We still run the same projection system that we've ran since the day that we opened. So it's a real calling card to the resurgence of the drive-in culture, as well as love of classic cinema and the platform that it's shown on in 35 millimeter. So
yeah, which is so cool.
Travel all over the place to come and enjoy their favorite movies on true film. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's super cool. And as you can see rolling across the bottom of the screen there for those that are watching,
we
have all the contact info for the Mahoning. You can check them out on their website.
Go check them
out. Social media, and they also have a Patreon. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do to support the Mahoning. Now, you guys recently had a rough time of things there, where you almost shut down.
Yeah, it's become part of our legend.
Yeah,
it's such a strange story, but what kind of happened was the landowner made a deal with a solar panel farm to pretty much buy out his drive-in properties, and we caught wind of it and kind of freaked out. We went the fan base and let them know our story, and not that it wasn't very apparent how passionate we all were, but really putting it out there, and the fan base rose up to save us in such a way that it stirred all the way back to this solar panel farm, and they backed out totally. So
that's crazy.
It's culturally significant what we're doing at the Mahoning. It's not a struggling business like a lot of drive-ins, or the idea of what a drive-in is,
right,
on people's minds. It's something very unique. And since then, and even before that, that's been our motto, is to really just bring back the significance of why drive-ins are important to a community.
Right.
It's the ultimate community space where people can come and get out of their heads.
Yeah.
And now that we're living in a world that is driven by fandom and IP and all these little, like we were talking about, niche cultures.
Yeah.
It's a perfect breeding ground for people to come and just rock that like they've never been able to rock that before, you know?
Sure.
How'd you get the idea for the Real Rumble, and how did wrestling kind of tie that whole thing into the
Oh my God,
drive-in theater?
So I have a lot of events that I just adore, but the real event is pure magic on display. So we work with Chris and LVAC and have for years doing our merchandise, t-shirts, things like that.
Right.
And they started kind of doing their thing around, and during the pandemic, they lost their space to do their thing, which I think at that time was inside of maybe South Mall, or they used to do it inside like an old Foot Locker, which I thought was like so metal, you know, like talking about just like, we're going to do this and people are going to come, you know? So during the pandemic, we kind of were that space for a lot of local outfits that used to getting in front of an audience and had to find a way to do that in a safe and sellable way.
Right.
And that was one of the things that was born out of the pandemic, talking to Chris and saying, you know, can we make this work? The idea of a squared circle underneath the massive Mahoning. And in my mind, I'm like, this could be the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And then when it actually followed through and I got to really see behind the curtain, quote unquote, to what LVAC is really doing and what the local wrestling world was.
Right.
It just took me, my audience, my team by storm, to the point where it became one of our really coveted events every single year. And I think we're up to 5. We'll be going on to number 5 this year.
And 4 was a bit of a disaster, unfortunately.
You know, it's we always, you know, rain or shine, and in this case, with something that's so dependent on the weather, you know, rocking with us. It was just so tough because we had VHS Fest, I think, that same weekend, and the weather was insane.
Rob was there for that one. He even actually did like a little live for us on our page.
And you know what was great about that, I think, too, is that you know, the wrestlers are really into this as well, and you can tell that the wrestlers are into it, especially you know, like the guys that showed up just to hang out with people in the snack bar that, you know, still came. You know, there's this level of commitment from them too, because I mean, when you look at the event itself, I mean, it really is, you know, extremely unique among anything. I think it was the first year I was there. I had met some people who, now this again is information for our viewers, but at the Mahoning, you can purchase tickets and camp there overnight as well. Which is an incredible thing for people. But now, for example, these were people from New York, and they drove down from New York, and they said, listen, we don't have anything like this near us at all. Like, as soon as we heard about this, we had to come.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like that's a lot of how people view the Mahoning.
Yeah, it's once in a lifetime events. For a while, I saw a meme going around with people sitting in inner tubes watching Jaws on the water. I was like, well, that's what the Mahoning kind of is every single night. It's a play into a bit more of the fandom. But in this case, it's almost like what the NHL does when they take their games to, you know, baseball stadiums so they can do it outdoors. The idea of seeing live wrestling outside underneath a drive-in screen, it has an automatic sell, but I think, again, what the guys brought to it just bowled people over with the showmanship of it all.
Yeah.
And made me again fall in love with why I loved wrestling so much.
Yeah.
And it's more than the event being successful and people looking forward to it. It's brought so many new friends into the fold from the LVAC, which, as you guys know, it's just like the coolest guys and girls doing
absolutely.
their thing and owning it and loving it. So, you know, everybody from Cannonball to Cheeseburger to Abby to Avery, it's like all those guys are just you know, we consider them friends. And even during this year when it rained out, it's just great seeing all those guys and hanging out with them and getting to see the fans come in and just appreciate who they are and what they do.
Well, there, and you know, I feel like the LVAC and the Mahoning fit really well together, because the LVAC, you know, in talking to Chris and talking to some of the guys that, you know, really continue to make that happen, you know, their big thing is all about like having fun. They want everybody to have a good time. And, you know, I've been to other events at the Mahoning, and you just get that sense that like every single person that's there, you know, working at the Mahoning, putting on the shows, you just get the sense that everybody just wants everybody to come and have a great time. And that fits so well together.
It's Little Rascals, you know, like it's one of those things where it's like, nobody's going to tell us, you know, we can't put on a show. It can be organized madness. But the thing I love about the people that we work with, including LVAC, is these may have started as little outfits, but these are people who are really good at reaching for the stars. And same thing with the people that they have involved in it, where you're just like, oh, I can see the magic. And perfect crossover, because it's not any one thing that makes the Mahoning magic. It's the kind of stew. So it's the same way with LVAC, what they do, and a lot of the indie kind of wrestling world and units out there. They're kind of making it exciting for the fans, and that's what keeps people going.
Ralph actually brought me to my first LVAC show, and of all shows, it was Steel Stack SmackDown 2.
Oh my God.
And we were literally front row, and fun isn't even the word for it. I think I didn't stop smiling the entire time I was sitting down. I think my favorite part, of course, because it was like kind of my moment, was when Delirious saw me hop down, grab my hat off my head, wore it, and it did some moves with in the ring with it. And then after he did like a splash, he threw it back out to me. I'm like, oh man, that's just I'm good. I'm
take
good.
That to the bank.
And
fantastic. I just remember those.
What was cool about that was that Ralph and I watched it back on IWTV, and Veda and the commentators are all making hat memes and hat puns as it was happening.
Such good stuff. So obviously, I mean, we can tell right off the bat that you are an absolute wrestling fan. So talk a little bit about you know, how you kind of got involved with wrestling. Talk about maybe some of your favorites.
Yeah, so I was born in 83, so I was right in that sweet spot of, you know, classic WWF when it was very character driven.
Right.
My favorite wrestler in the world, Bret the Hitman Hart.
Nice.
Nice. And, you know, like seeing those guys, my father made a point to take me and see live wrestling when I was a kid and fell in love with it. The idea of the pay-per-view and the excitement that you had for the pay-per-view when you were a kid, unmatched, which again has a crossover with what we're trying to do with the Mahoning and kind of bring back the excitement of the midnight screenings and the excitement for movies. But I think really the area that we're in, I was right on the cusp of Philly, where I grew up, and ECW just like rose out of the madness of Philly. And the craziest nights of my life were going down and seeing those ECW shows with my dad. And I was way too young to see them. Just like, you know, people tossing their chairs in and bring your own weapons matches. And it took my love of the bubblegum WWF and the kind of characters, like movie style characters that they had, to just the underground gritty nature of wrestling, to where it really blurred the line for me of like fear, you know, like these guys are, somebody's gonna get killed down here. So I think that excitement of my childhood, those two kind of worlds blended together and mixed, just like launched my love of performance and my love of again, showmanship. So it wasn't that long after that I got myself up on a stage and started acting and singing and doing that whole thing. So like we have talked about, there's a piece of all of us that I think wants to be a live wrestler, you know? Wants to have the confidence to be able to get in there and own the ring, or in this case, own a character, which was a big propeller for me as a kid to get into acting. The whole escapism of it all. Like, oh, I'm uncomfortable in my own skin, you know, whatever it is. This is a way to kind of escape into another character through acting. And I can see the same appeal for wrestling, you know, where I'm just like, man, those days where I'm having a tough time, like, I would love to be able to throw on a man, you know, a character, and just take my aggression out on the world. Oh my gosh. But that's what I really love is, and really are nostalgic for, is those bubblegum WWF character years and those ECW, you know, you never know what you're going to get appeal. And again, in a weird way, the indie market is that. They find a way to appeal to a youngster, keep it bubblegum, and present it in a way that everybody can swallow that pill. But also find a way to make it something you're going to talk about Monday, you know, make it something you're going to be talking about for a long time. So I think that's why I love, you know, what we do at the theater with LVAC so much, is it is that, you know.
You said your favorite wrestler is Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yeah, without it.
Have a favorite match of Bret the Hitman Hart?
Oh my God, that's tough. That is tough. I'm trying to remember. So my father took me. It wasn't a WrestleMania, you know, because like there's no way we were balling like that. But he took me when they came around to Philly a couple times, and from my memory, there was some sort of. It may have even been Hart Foundation time. There's something in my mind is Bushwhackers, Hart Foundation was like the kind of mashup that they were doing that night. And I didn't know how to feel because I loved the Bushwhackers so much. I love Bret Hart so much. And it became this thing. Although my timeline for wrestling and as a kid in general are so like, you know, thrown off. Like, everything when you're a kid is just almost new, or you're chasing this experiences that you've had. So, but I'll never forget going for the first time, getting the Hitman Hart glasses, you know, that they would sell at the merch stand. And I bought a cassette tape of the intro music of all the stars. And man, did I wear that tape out, me and my brother, just like doing the intro walks like we were God amongst them. And again, I think that's amazing. What I love about, you know, wrestling in general is just it sparks something in you that, you know, lets you kind of go wild in your head. So
I remember being a kid, and in a similar fashion, but with CDs, I would burn all the CDs onto a disc. And we would literally have we bought the entranceway for the wrestlers, and we would have the figures walk out to their themes. We would pause it, play it, you know, for everyone that walked out, and we would have like one of us be JR, one of us be Lawler, and do commentary. like we did the whole 9 yards, everything.
You're doing the Jeff Jarrett walk.
We're doing the whole
like playing everything out. And that's another thing is like. I think back to my childhood, and it's Ninja Turtles, it's He-Man, and it's WWF. It was the most marketed and marketable thing for a young boy. That it just ruled my world. Every Christmas, it ruled my world. You know, from wrestling buddies to, you know, the action figure sets to, everything. It just
Yeah.
the appeal for that is something that gets reborn every year because kids get into it. But something about it, when you're a kid, it just really sparks your imagination for things. It's still has that surface appeal for me. Especially now that I have a munchkin, I get to experience through his eyes and being like at the Real Rumble shows and being like, what is happening?
Right.
Other world. I love it.
Well, and it's so much more fun when you see, and this is something that we've kind of experienced as we have been doing our show, and just
right,
because we've kind of tilted more towards the independent world, and you find that the independent guys, especially when you're at shows live, it's so much cooler because you are right there. Up in the action, you are right there with them. You get to interact with them. It's not like the big time where there's just these people in front of you, and you're just kind of there in awe watching them. But you actually get to interact with these people, and I think that's one of the cool things about Real Rumble is just the interaction that the fans that come there get to have with the wrestlers. My wife met Orange Cassidy for the first time the past year, and she's not huge into wrestling, and she'll go to shows and stuff with me. She likes it better live, seeing like the indie shows, but she is a huge Orange Cassidy fan. We watch his matches regularly. And
weird how Cassidy gets the wifes out, It's just like,
Look, it's that denim look. It harkens back to a day.
He's bringing back the look. He's bringing back the look.
But we've got the picture of the two of us and Orange Cassidy on the living room wall. That's like our piece of wrestling memorabilia there. But it's so cool. And not just, the Real Rumble's a great example, but not just the Real Rumble. Every event you have there that brings people out, like the fans get such an interaction with these people that they just wouldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Hollywood's embraced us. We've been really blessed with our story kind of going rumbling in the cinematic world and then really kind of taking off beyond that,
right,
and filtering through all these other kind of niche fandoms. But I'm trying to think. Our very first, I think, was Zach Galligan from Gremlins, the star of Gremlins. And there was a connection there to bring him out, and the fans just went crazy for it. And we started leaning into that maybe around 2017, and now it's gotten to the point where guests will be so excited to come out, like they want to be part of our world, or if they can't come out, they insist on sending us an introduction to the movie or something like that. So you really never know what you're going to get, even if it's just a traditional show at the Mahoning, because really every show that we do tries to take that extra step, whether it's an introduction on the screen or somebody sending their love, or like you said, having them there, signing for guests, meeting them. Like nothing cooler than watching your favorite movie with the people responsible for it. And the LVAC show definitely was the angle we were trying to go for, of saying, let's pull that curtain back. So once this show is over, we can say, go meet these guys, go support them, go buy cheeseburger hats, go buy t-shirts, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it was the perfect, like you said, marriage, because it's something we had already been doing. Having them there was just a perfect connector, and having Cassidy there with year 2 or year 3, just legitimized that event any harder than it could have. So memories to last a lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some of the other events that you do other than Real Rumble?
So we are known for our annual events. We do Universal Monster Mash every single year. We do Zombie Fest every single year. We do a biannual David Lynch event and a Mad Max event. We do an event called Vam Party, which is all vampire themed films. So we really kind of run the gamut. We have a lot of kind of single day series as well. The Mahoning
Right.
Music series, Sunday Essential series, things like that. A lot of director retrospectives and actor retrospectives,
Right.
which we absolutely love. So, yeah, Godzilla Palooza was a big one. We're trying to build
Ooh,
off that a
yeah.
little bit this year and tap into King Kong if we can. So,
Cool.
it's really, if
Mhm.
there is a love for a fandom, like the Mahoning's going to do our best to put on a Mahoning version of that.
Mhm.
You know?
Right.
And I
So,
don't think people realize, how big things have really gotten there, and just
Yeah.
some of the, some of the things you're able to do there. Having Lloyd Kaufman for Tromathon,
yeah,
like people don't realize how big that is. Like you just had John Waters this year, which is, I
Awesome.
mean, anybody who knows anything about film, their mind should just be blown by the fact that, like, you
yes,
were able to do these things. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that you really sort of, become this global phenomenon, like especially
Yeah.
when you were having, the issues with the land and things like that. I mean, you became almost an international story at that point. And,
Yeah.
people
yeah.
really took notice of the Mahoning.
It's a happening, and it is something that people can get really passionate about because they can relate to who we are and
Yeah.
what our mission is. We are
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate example of experience over profit, you know,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
especially in a world where we're kind of run by these big corporations that are only
Mhm.
looking out for the bottom line. So again, for some little rascals group of friends to jump out every single weekend and try to elevate what a drive-in or the thought of a drive-in is
Yeah.
really did shock some people and got the attention of people. And then the potential of that being taken from them just when it was getting to a point of like, this is our home,
Right.
this is like our place. I can be myself, I can truly be myself.
Yeah.
It took it to a level of protection that
Mhm.
you could never pay for as a business. We
Yeah.
already had this kind of stamp of cool, with
Yeah.
Hollywood embracing us and doing these retro shows that people just loved, had a very punk rock mentality to our business model.
Right.
But having the fan base rise up and save it and almost do this reverse David versus Goliath,
Yeah.
story just solidified how important these type of things are in the world.
Yeah.
And certainly in the culture or cinema culture and drive-in world. But again, I think it crossed over with everybody who put their hopes and dreams into the fact that the Mahoning was able to find success.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We were that thing that fed people's fire for a long time. And when somebody
Mhm.
was about to throw a bucket on that, it was like, whew,
Yeah.
it took the passion for what we do to another stratosphere,
Right.
to the point where we feel very secure in what we do,
Yeah.
because we are so loved,
Yeah.
and there is so much support beyond what we could ever put into it. So
Right.
I,
it's
f-
a perfect scenario.
I feel
Yeah.
like the identity of the Mahoning Valley, as far as cinema goes, has really become this idea of the Mahoning driving. Because as you mentioned before, now I only live 10 minutes from the drive-in, and we are on the cusp of the Lehigh Valley, but the Mahoning Valley really has sort of embraced this idea of the Mahoning Drive-In and the things you do there. Because if you look at it, I mean, we just had a movie theater down the road from you that showed current movies closed down.
Yep.
Oh
And I
wow.
think a lot of that has to do with the fact that people are really embracing this idea, like, we have this great drive-in, right down the road, and this is what we really like. This is what, my wife and I drive around town and we'll see vehicles that have the Mahoning drive-in stickers on, or we'll see like certain vehicles that we've recognized from like being in line waiting to get in. And, it's kind of like our own cool little thing here. I
Yeah.
think people, you really have embraced that as like part of the Mahoning Valley, is this Mahoning drive-in.
It helps. It really helps the area. That was our big sell when we didn't know what the future of the Mahoning was, is
Right.
if you think this is a struggling drive-in, talk to every neighboring business that really benefits off the fact that we are a humongous tourist attraction. We are a young, hip movement in an area that's not very young and hip.
Yeah.
And it really, really has propelled the area businesses to a point where they love what we do for that reason. And we're ready to fight tooth and nail to make sure that these board members that needed to be convinced knew that,
Yeah.
And I think, again, the strength of what the Mahoning Drive-In Theater is the power of community and the power of, numbers. And in this day and age, I think we're living in kind of uncharted territory when it comes to these dated businesses and dated business models. And hey, the idea of what this is, it's a way to kind of turn that on its head and be like, no, you can look at this in a whole different way, and kind of go about your business model in a whole different way, that it doesn't have to be dictated by studio or dictated by somebody else. That's the beauty of, I think, what we've been able to do with the Mahoning is it very much has been on our own terms. We were the rebel drive-in that chose to not change to digital when the entire world had to change to digital. So right away it kind of was this rebel thing. And since day one, since 2014 when our partnership started there, it really was, let's go after things that we want to do and we want to see. And it has gained the notoriety and the fandom of like-minded people to the point where, we feel so supported with every single move that we do, because we know these are our fans and our fan base and what they love.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about you. I heard you mention earlier that you were an actor and you got into acting.
Yeah.
Would you say that watching wrestling growing up as a kid was like a factor in you wanting to become an actor?
Hell yeah. I infamously, my story is I've been talking about running a drive-in since I was 13 years old.
Wow.
The experience that I had at my childhood drive-in before I was 13, seeing movies, falling in love with movies, and eventually figuring out that there's people behind these movies that I love, and looking at it as performance. And in fourth grade, I was in the Philadelphia Boys Choir.
Oh, nice.
And kind of got that bug of singing, and it led into acting and performance and all that stuff. And that was kind of just where my head and life was as a kid, was the more eccentric a character or the more eccentric a person, the more attracted I was to them.
Right.
So naturally, Hollywood sucked me right in. Naturally, music sucked me right in, big rock stars, things like that.
Right.
But wrestling was the ultimate,
Yeah.
And again, as a kid, we're talking about the Hulk Hogan years, the Ultimate Warrior years.
Oh, yeah.
It was so easy to get unbelievably hyped up with that world.
Yeah.
And I think that bug of commitment to a character and commitment to a quote unquote performance was what translated for me as a kid, especially when I got up on a stage. And that's all my world was exploring characters, exploring, performance. And what I always loved about wrestling is that it was this continuous storyline. At least it was when I was, it seemingly was when I was young, where everything was this connective tissue, and it felt like a theater, world where, okay, it's this big group of people, this huge cast, all relying on each other to put on this big show. And, where their stories go was really like a reality show for a theater kid to be like, this is like the ultimate hyped up, reality of like, if you were to follow, your group or your crew working in entertainment.
Right.
So definitely a crossover there. And, you know, thinking about it again, my world with movies and wrestling or martial arts or just badassness,
Yeah.
they go hand in hand. Like a movie had to involve that when I was a kid for me to be obsessed with it. From, you know, Ninja Turtles right out the gate.
Oh yeah.
It was like all the spin-offs after that.
Yeah.
Ninjas to Surf Ninjas to,
Yep.
you know, everything down the line had this element of, you know, kind of a tough guy, you know, tough guy mentality. And obviously the Hulk Hogan movies, you know, really kind of lit that fire where, you know, I'm sure you guys are in that same age range where the video store was just like heaven as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the idea of going in and picking out these old wrestling tapes and picking out these weird movies that you've never seen or that have your favorite wrestler in it.
Right.
That's how I was exposed to They Live. That's how I was exposed to some of these, you know, bonkers off the wall movies, is because my weird connection with the wrestling world when I was, you know, again, it caters to a youngster, but I feel like I was just young to be really understanding what that stuff was all about. But what a perfect caveat into performance, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And what that world is. So
yeah, my era was definitely more of the like the blockbuster, but I know Ralph's mentioned it a few times that he and his friends actually swap tapes sometimes.
Oh yeah,
in order to get some, you know.
So I grew up in the VHS era. I had video stores. Actually, I have when the local video store closed, I bought their copy of WrestleMania 3. It was the double cassette that pops open and Hulk Hogan pops up in the middle.
Come on,
right.
So I still have that, but yeah, I was definitely the VHS era, and you know, it's hard to describe to people if they didn't live through it, because it was such a great time. Like, just going to the video store and, like, you know, that excitement of like, what am I gonna find or what am I gonna see? Like, there's just kids today are missing out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
The importance of it, where you know, my kid can get whatever he wants by searching it on an engine. You know, for us, it was like we actually had to take the step to go and look and explore and dig and read the boxes and then pay for it, you know? So we were all definitely products of cable and video stores. And I ran a Hollywood Video into the ground when they went out of business for like 6 or 7 years in the college. And it still, I think, is the greatest years of my life, just being surrounded by media and constant creativity and people who loved it. I mean, it definitely had its bullshit at times, but 99% of that was just like the ultimate. And I talked about my job here. One of the jobs is curating and booking the movies.
Right.
So I really do credit my years in the video store with sharpening my booking skills. And by that, I mean, like, what movie would go well with another movie? Because what I would do every single morning, I would come in for a shift. You'd have control of the entire store of televisions.
Yeah.
They're powered by one VCR up front. And it was like God mode. Like, what am I gonna play for my 8-hour shift? But what I would start to do to entertain myself and entertain the crew is like curate an entire day. It would link up through character or genre or whatever it was. And it's so weird to think back on now, because something that was so organic for us to just like show off to each other and curate the day was the total just, you know, weird encyclopedic knowledge of connection of film, you know? So I think that's really where my love shifted from theater into film and just like sucked me right up. It was Tarantino era too, you know, everybody was looking to be the next you know, video store director or whatever. But I didn't really go in with that mentality of like, that's what I was going to do. It was more, I want to go in and learn as much as I can about movies.
Yeah.
And like unknowingly, just being around it seeped into my soul and into my brain. And I'm so thankful for the video store and what it gave me for my path. And it definitely bred this crazy fandom and fans that we all are now. Like, it's okay to still love the things that you loved when you were 13.
Yeah.
Where maybe before, the generation before, that wouldn't even be a thought.
Oh, yeah.
Like, my world is like propelled by leaning into things that you loved when you were 13. So,
of course, not to pull an Opinion City here, but I'm just curious if you can give us your quick top 5 movies as a kid.
Top 5 movies as a kid. Oh my God. It's nearly impossible to do that, but certainly certain movies changed my life, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Well, let me start before that. So earliest memories, wrestling, video games, you know, like I remember when I got that first Nintendo console, and when this Sega came out, it was like religious, like right now. So I saw The Wizard, which I don't know if you guys know that movie. It's a Nintendo movie with
a great movie.
Fantastic movie.
Oh, so good. Everybody saw the Power Glove and went nuts.
Yeah, exactly. The Power Glove, dude. Every time
for a kid my age, right there. And saw it with all my friends and my little brother. And it just was like the greatest thing ever. I'll never forget just re-renting that movie over and over again and loving it so much. And right around that same era, Super Mario Brothers.
Of course.
Which we just did a big celebration, a 30th anniversary screening.
Oh, wow.
Where we brought out arcade games. We did on the screen. And revisiting that movie, like, it's infamously terrible.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Nostalgia is like a, rose
drug
glasses type of thing.
Yeah, it's a great filter.
It's one of those things. I'm still very nostalgic for it, but the older I get, I can expose it for what it is. Where I'm like,
exactly, yeah.
Ninja Turtles for sure.
Of course.
Kid, greatest thing ever. Three Ninjas was very important to me as a kid. I think more important than that was probably Home Alone, especially as a young performer. You know, it was like Macaulay Culkin, and his career is like what every young actor wanted to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a lot of those kind of bubblegum popcorn, what you would expect movies. But I will never forget seeing Evil Dead for the first time when I was or being exposed to The Exorcist when I was and that's very much what the Mahonings become known for, is a lot of horror and a lot of great memories with horror films, and this again kind of chasing the experience thing. I've had a lot of amazing theatrical experiences that I've just been chasing my entire life to try to duplicate. And same thing I think with movies is a lot of movies don't deliver the way that they used to for me, whether I'm a jaded fool now or something. But I love when a movie can be discovered, like especially in my world where I lived in a video store for, a lot of my life. And now I run a drive-in movie theater for the second half of my life. And whenever I can find a movie I've never heard of, and like somebody will show it to me or give it to me, and I'm like, I got to watch this just because I've never, never on the radar. I love that it's an endless well that you'll never get to the bottom of, just like music. Same reason I love digging through records. It's a well that you can just keep digging into, and if you love aspects of it, you'll always find something about it that you love. But,
Cool. So I got a couple questions for you here, and these two sort of go together. So is there a favorite event that you've done at the Mahoning? And is there an event that you have not been able to do yet that you were just like, you know what? By the time I leave this mortal coil, I will have this done.
Well, for people that know me, they know I'm a huge Kevin Smith guy. And the first year that I partnered up at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, one of the first suggestions I had was, I want to be the home of Kevin Smith Fest. And the idea was, let's plant the seed. I was very much going off the model of Lebowski Fest, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Not really.
Started it, or a group of friends started it in their basement, where it's like, we're going to watch, Big Lebowski and really lean into the fandom and dress up as the characters. And now it's become like this humongous, like internationally celebrated day.
Oh, wow.
That has grown year after year after year, and the fandom has come and found it. So that was the idea with Kevin Smith Fest was, let's just establish that we're the home of Kevin Smith Fest and establish where our mindset and mentality is as a business, and really draw those fans over the years. So we were able to bring back Kevin Smith Fest this year after a little hiatus, but it will forever, I think, be my favorite event, just because it was the first thing that established me as a booker, quote unquote, where I realized that I could shape an event and really add elements to a show that I felt like I could deliver. A lot of our events, we work with other entities or work with bigger groups that can bring in the fandom. But that was one that I felt just so confident with, to be like, this dude's lived in my head forever. He's like feeds my fire. So the idea of doing like a big ode to him was a true honor. A lot of stuff that we haven't been able to do just because we're a 35 millimeter outfit. And traditionally, when we can't get a movie on film, we won't show it. There's some exceptions there. We do VHS Fest every year, which is a huge, again, fan event for the love of the video store and the love of the almighty slab. Coming out and watching VHS tapes projected on the big screen.
Nice.
One of my favorite movies is The Poseidon Adventure, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with.
Yes,
It's absolutely just like one of those movies that shifted my view on things and view on performance, and right at the right time. There's no 35 prints available of Poseidon Adventure that we've been able to find. And it's one that I'm just dying to see. I keep joking about this shipwrecked weekend with Titanic and Poseidon Adventure. Because you totally get the bubble. Moms and dads coming in for Titanic. And then it's like, you got your diehards staying for Poseidon Adventure late into the night.
There's no possible way you can get that on film, huh?
So I feel like we have one of the deepest reaches, just as far as private collectors, the film community across America and beyond. And I feel like if there were one out there, especially because I talk about it so much, I make a point to be like, I'm waiting for that email to come through of a collector being like, guess that's what I got. But so
the
far,
Holy Grail.
No,
exactly.
Sometimes it's a financial thing. Like certain titles are very expensive. The Russ Meyer catalog would be great for us to really lean into, but it's infamously a very pricey show to put on. Same thing with James Bond. Until late, we didn't take the gamble on that, but we've been able to do 2 James Bond events with Exhumed Films over the last 2 years. A lot of dreams have come true on this Mahoning lot as a booker and a fan of things. I feel like if there is a live fandom or a legitimate fandom for something, we're going to get to it eventually. One that really took us by surprise this year was the Muppets event.
Oh, wow.
We did Muppets Take Mahoning.
Nice.
As a nice little angle. It was a 1-day event. And we did it with our good friend Gene Beretta, whose brother is very involved with the Muppets world. Producer, director, a lot of other things. And the fandom that emerged on this lot was like breathtaking. People
really?
with their own Muppets and with their own songs.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It was, again, just a reminder that if you present it and the fandom is strong, they're coming. You know,
if you build it, they will come.
Very, very nice. That's one we've never played. That's another one.
There you go, right?
Yeah.
What's kind of like, so like, what's the kind of the process to make it into film? Is it like a arduous process to do?
As far as what we do?
Yeah.
So it's a unique business model in that we are shipping humongous and heavy prints across the country every single day that we run. So there is built-in costs that a digital theater would never have to worry about. Right. It's a lot more effort as far as just the manpower to put on the show. Right. We have a reel-to-reel system, which means that you actually need a projectionist in the booth running it. Oh. So physically, every 20 minutes, our guys and gals are doing changeovers and running that film. So that's an expense that a digital outfit doesn't really have to worry about. It's programmed and it starts on its own, or you just kind of hit play and walk away. So there's a lot of unique challenges to living in a past mentality, but functioning in a modern age. So I'm very jealous of first run or new movie digital theaters, because there's a lot of elements that are in place to support them, where for us we are like out on a pirate ship. You know what I mean? So studios don't have us in mind. They don't have our business model in mind. They don't have any of that stuff in mind. But the beauty of it is that we have a following and a fandom and a support system that really no other major chain or outfit is blessed to have. So we feel like the future of the Mahoning is very much reliant upon the fan base and where it steers. Every single year we pivot because something happens in the world or Hollywood or whatever else. So I'm excited to see where just movies go in general in the future. But certainly the Mahoning has a lot of growth. We're still kind of in our early infant stages, thinking that we've only been doing this for 10 years. So
So, all right. So speaking about the Mahoning, again, we have all your information at the bottom there. People can get everything they need to know at mahoningdit.com. Obviously, Facebook and Instagram, Mahoning Drive-In Theater, and on Twitter, or X as the kids are calling it, Mahoning
it's
DIT.
Twitter. It's Twitter.
Yes.
In my mind, until he changes the website name, it's Twitter.
Yeah, it's
Twitter.
It's good. Well, listen. There's a certain sector of people that are always going to call it Twitter, so we can hang with those people.
That's right.
But you've got two other things going on that we want to get some information about here. Of course, you've got Mahoning Drive-In Radio. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So what an amazing thing this is. So right around the pandemic, or right after, we really started leaning into the idea of recording the radio show and trying to produce a podcast. And for those of you guys that haven't been out on the Mahoning lot, we run a pre-show radio show every time that you come out to see a movie. So
cool.
As you're waiting for the sun to set, you dial in your radio to 89.3 FM. And instead of hearing just tunes, you'll hear themed tunes, and you'll be hearing somebody guiding you through the show.
That's really cool.
Yeah, the idea was just give people a little more bang for their buck.
Nice.
It allows us to kind of show off our personalities, which was born out of the documentary.
And for those who haven't been to Real Rumble, it is very impressive. That night specifically is very impressive. Yeah, it's
a coveted slot, and
I'm due.
Try to hold on to. Anybody who is the DJ that night just gets to show off that entrance music. Like, look out!
It's so much fun.
I definitely did. But yeah, the podcast was very much born out of, hey, we have this budding platform with the audio, and we are off 6 months out of the year. So what's a good way to kind of stay on people's radar and give them content? And podcasting is the ultimate because, as you can see, I'm doing it from my bedroom.
Yeah.
And, during the pandemic, it was very much like, well, we can't all get together. What are we going to do? And it's been the most rewarding arm of this business, because what it has done is connected us with the drive-in culture beyond what our visitors or world could bring.
Right.
So we do an owner series where we talk to drive-in owners across the country. We have celebrity guests come in and talk about their experience with drive-ins.
Right.
We have local businesses that we're working with, like LVAC, come in and talk about some upcoming shows and their experience with drive-ins. But it's pretty much the only podcast that's dedicated to the love of the drive-in and its culture,
That's awesome. That's
and
really
it is
cool.
very Mahoning centric at times, but it really is for anybody out there that just loves the idea of a drive-in, which if you become a fan of a drive-in, you know how much it kind of takes over your lifestyle, So it's for those people that really do love that appeal of the lifestyle, that appeal of the community, and just kind of keeping abreast of what the Mahoning Drive-In Theater is up to on a week-to-week basis.
Right.
So that kind of leads us into our next little venture we'd like to get some more information on, and that, of course, is your Patreon.
Oh my gosh!
A great way for people to support the Mahoning. So
roll out the
talk
carpet.
A little bit about that.
Roll out the carpet.
Ultimate. So again, one of those things. I don't know how you guys deal with your social medias and getting the word out to your fans and all this, but it is a freaking game. Like, it really is like a dance in that, trying to reach your fans on social media, it's just become more and more difficult with algorithms and bullshit like that.
Yeah.
So the Patreon, again, was born out of necessity because we felt like our social media had become a means for us to promote shows, and it started losing its personality. And for the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, that's a huge draw. Like, we have the documentary out there, and now the podcast is out there. It's this thing that's kind of, it needs a little personality to keep it running and going, being what it is. So the Patreon was born during the pandemic, or right around the pandemic as well, as a means to do virtual screenings, which a lot of theaters started doing during the pandemic. It was like, you can't come out and come to the theater, but we're doing these virtual shows, which it never stuck with anybody. But for us, it was a great way to do a once a month weird off the wall Mahoning movie in a digital setting, and be able to keep our fans interacting at least once a month in the off season when they can't see each other. So it started with that. It started with the podcast being kind of an exclusive thing for them. And along with the Patreon and the people that have come along with us for the ride, our whole world has grown, not just on the lot and the experiences that we have and the caliber of guests that we have and all that, but with the podcast and, with the material that we produce on the Patreon. It really gives us this baseline of folks that have our back and truly fund a lot of these extra experimental projects. So it's really again, perfect timing thing for a theater that is trying to live in the new age. We are an old school drive-in running on 1940s equipment. We have a Patreon. We have a YouTube. We have, everything you can think of when it comes to putting yourself out there in the modern age. But I think for anybody who has been to any drive-in, there's something just inherently appealing about it. And this day and age, for sure, especially for wrestling fans, nostalgia is just the ultimate drug. It's the ultimate
absolutely
fountain of youth,
Yeah.
And the Mahoning, I think, is like this big fountain of youth, this big ball of nostalgia, this kind of spiritual ground for people who love a pure time, if you want to call it. But again, I'm honored that the Mahoning has become such a loved and important draw for people,
right?
Not just for their escape and entertainment, but how they lead their lives and how they kind of think. So it's a beautiful thing to be a part of.
Yeah, I've been to a number of drive-in theaters, and I think the best way I can describe it is you go to a drive-in theater and watch a movie. You go to the Mahoning and you're a part of the movie.
Exactly,
because it's just such an experience. Like you can't get it anywhere else. There's just nothing like the Mahoning. It's just a great place. So again, guys, you can get all the information you need about the Mahoning at mahoningdit.com. Obviously, follow them on socials. They've got a ton of great things for you, way beyond the movies with Mahoning Drive-In Radio. And please go out and support the Patreon. Do what you can to help them out because they do everything they can for their fans. So it's been a real pleasure, getting a chance to talk to you about not only the Mahoning but Real Rumble and your love of wrestling. It was great having you on.
Thank you guys.
As our second episode.
Thank you.
A real treat.
Yeah, and I hope everybody goes out and does what they can to help support the Mahoning because it is something special that we in this area are lucky to have. So
and look for Real Rumble coming back in July of next.
Exciting.
Do it.
There it is, July.
There's
Real
my
Rumble.
thing.
That's exciting
July.
stuff, man. Well, all right. So obviously we want to thank all of our Patreons for joining us on this journey. And again, go out and support the Mahoning. We want to thank Virgil for all your time sitting down with us and chopping it up a little bit. And so we are gonna sign off and just hang tight, Virgil, and we'll talk in a minute.
All right.
Yep.
See you guys.
All right.
Da 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 da